The military partnership between North Korea and Russia is not only a violation of UN Security Council resolutions and a dangerous escalation of the war, but also an opportunity for the Kremlin to fill its most urgent need – manpower. Since the beginning of its full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Russia has suffered an estimated 700,000 to 800,000 casualties, both killed and wounded. That is why strengthening deterrence measures against North Korea is essential, according to the head of NATO's military committee.
NATO has called on Russia and North Korea to cease these actions immediately. Stopping North Korea's involvement requires tightening sanctions, increasing diplomatic pressure on China, and intercepting arms shipments through intelligence and naval cooperation. Giuseppe Cavo Dragone, chair of the NATO Military Committee, in the interview with Army Inform,
Russia is using North Korean soldiers in the Kursk region to avoid weakening this part of the front while continuing its offensive in other areas, experts believe. North Korean troops were deployed to Russia's Kursk region in the fall of 2024. Since then, Ukraine's defense forces have not only eliminated several thousand North Korean servicemen, but also captured POWs. Meanwhile, Estonian intelligence has reported that North Korea plans to send additional troops to support Russia by summer 2025. Japanese public broadcaster NHK has also reported that North Korea is likely to begin production of drones co-developed with Russia in 2025.
Russia may be providing drone and missile technology to North Korea in exchange for North Korean troops fighting in Kursk Oblast. Japanese outlet NHK, citing multiple sources familiar with Russia-North Korea relations, reported on February 8 that Russia has agreed to assist North Korea in developing and mass-producing various types of drones in exchange for North Korean forces supporting Russia's war effort against Ukraine. From the report by the Institute for the Study of War.
The ISW believes that North Korea is using the war in Ukraine as a testing ground for its military capabilities.
It's one thing to test weapons at a training ground, but it's another to see how they perform against our air defense systems and how accurately they hit targets in combat conditions. Testing weapons in real warfare is far more effective. Their technology will improve, and so will the tactics of North Korean soldiers. When they first arrived, they suffered heavy losses because they used outdated tactics.
Minister of National Defense of Lithuania Dovilė Šakalienė has stated that Russia is expanding its military production by cooperating with China, North Korea and Iran. Russia is not only sustaining its war effort but also rebuilding and enhancing its military capabilities. Therefore, Europe must also step up its efforts in this field. The European Commission has announced plans to strengthen cooperation with NATO member states that are not part of the EU, specifically Canada, the United Kingdom, Norway and the United States.
Enhanced cooperation with NATO on defense industrial matters is ensured through a dedicated structured dialogue started in 2024. The European Commission, in response to an inquiry by RBC Ukraine news website.
NATO remains committed to continuing military support for Ukraine, strengthening Kyiv's position in future negotiations. Additionally, according to the head of NATO's military committee, Ukraine's strikes on military targets inside Russia are disrupting Russian logistics, weakening its ability to conduct further attacks and forcing Moscow to allocate more resources to its own defense. Reported by Serhiy Kulias, Yulia Granovska, UATV News.
The activity of North Korean troops in the Kursk region has decreased. The main reason is significant losses, reports South Korean intelligence.
Since mid-January, there have been no signs that the North Korean troops stationed in the Russian Kursk region are engaged in combat operations. National Intelligence Service of South Korea from a Yonhap news publication. This is the result of effective work by Special Operations Forces and other components of Ukraine's defense forces. The possibility of further deployment of North Korean military units have been minimized. It should also be noted that the tactics used by some Russian military when deploying North Korean troops resembled those from World War II, where North Koreans acted like panel battalions.
It is currently unclear whether North Korean soldiers will participate in assault operations by the Russian military in the Kursk region in the future.
At this time, there is no definitive understanding of whether North Korean troops will be returned for participation in assault operations in the Kursk region. For now, they have not been involved in assaults for several weeks. Andriy Kovalenko, head of the Center for Countering Disinformation at the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine on Telegram.
Experts believe that Russia uses North Korean troops in the Kursk region to avoid exposing this front line and to continue its advance on other fronts. They were sent to the Kursk region in the fall of 2024. Since then, Ukraine's defense forces have managed to eliminate several thousand North Korean soldiers and capture 2 prisoners.
The North Koreans have not fully realized yet that it is not just people who can fight, but machines as well. It is like they try to counter this, but it is futile. They die in large numbers because they don't know how to fight drones. The majority of North Korean soldiers perish within the first minutes of assaults. They remain in small groups trying to seize positions. In reality, even if North Korean forces come across us, their chances of survival are virtually zero. Callsign Greek, Special Operations Forces serviceman of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, in an interview with RBC Ukraine.
Interview with the Associated Press, the president of Ukraine reported that on February 1st, Ukraine's armed forces struck a central Russian command post in the Kursk region.
Це була військова наша ціль.
This was our legitimate military target. A missile strike was launched from our side. Various types of weapons were used. A comprehensive strike was delivered, and we are talking about dozens of officers. They brought us 12 Southern Koreans, as you know, and they lost 4 of them. They lost the combat capability of this first waste bag of North Koreans. I can't tell them anything else because they're just a waste bag. They don't know where they are going and are fighting against a country they've never been to.
However, the president of Ukraine pointed out that North Korean soldiers should not be underestimated. They are gradually adapting to the conditions of warfare. The most important thing is that they are highly motivated, reported by Julia Hranovska, UATV News.
The Ukrainian Defense Forces have captured the first North Korean servicemen who fight for the Russists in the Kursk region. Thus, the Security Service of Ukraine, which investigates and files the relevant crimes, has received indisputable evidence of the DPRK's participation in Russia's war against our country. We are talking about 2 North Korean soldiers, one of whom was captured on 9th of January 2025 by soldiers of the Ukrainian Special Operations Forces, 84 Tactical Group, and the other by paratroopers of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Immediately after being captured, the foreigners were provided with all the necessary medical care as stipulated by the Geneva Convention. They were taken to Kyiv to carry out priority investigative measures. They are being held in appropriate conditions that meet the requirements of international law. The POWs do not speak Ukrainian, English, or Russian, so communication with them is carried out through interpreters of Korean, in cooperation with South Korean NIS. At the time of capture, one of the foreigners had a Russian military ID card issued in the name of another person with registration in the Republic of Tuva, Russian Federation. The other had no documents at all. During the interrogation, the DPRK soldier, who was found with the ticket, told the Security Service of Ukraine that he had been issued the document in Russia in autumn 2024. At that time, he said, some of North Korea's combat units had 1-week interoperability training with Russist groups. He stated that he was born in 2005, was a rifleman, and had been serving in North Korea since 2021. It is noteworthy that the prisoner, just as Russian military at the outset of the full-scale invasion, emphasizes that he was allegedly going for training, not to fight a war against Ukraine. Another prisoner of war confirmed the testimony of his fellow soldier. He gave some of his answers in writing because he had an injured jaw. According to preliminary information, he was born in 1999 and has been serving in the DPRK army since 2016 as a scout sniper. The Security Service of Ukraine is currently conducting the necessary investigative measures to establish all the circumstances of the DPRK military's participation in Russia's war against Ukraine. The investigation is being conducted under the procedural guidance of the Prosecutor General's Office under Article 437 of the Criminal Code of Ukraine, planning, preparation, unleashing, and waging an aggressive war.
Війни.